enough to be featured on ABC News 2020 back in 2003 with Barbara Walters doing the introduction. Could this be the answer to your
Barbara
dreams?
Walters and Hugh Downs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, he would have wanted up on the Give Me a Break segment with John Salza, but fortunately, we were the featured segment on 2020. So I've always been an innovator in everything that I've done on the area of aesthetics and rejuvenation as well. I realized many years ago that it took more than just a scalpel to make somebody look younger and feel younger. And I incorporated into my practice bioidentical hormone replacement, optimal nutrition, other things. I mean, what's the use in looking younger if you don't feel good?
Yes.
So a lot of what I do and integrate in my practice is not just designed to help you look younger, help you look more fresh for women as well as men, but also to make you feel younger and ultimately even function younger. As we'll get into a little bit more with our segment.
With regard to men and erectile dysfunction, this has become very pervasive, and to my surprise, I'm hearing men in their 30s are having issues right now. Is that right?
Yes, it's true. And in my practice, I've had a 50-something-year-old father that brought his 26-year-old son in because he had different issues.
Wow.
With the issue of erectile dysfunction, and I would like to rephrase that and let's rename it as erectile functioning, the circulation gets poorer as we get older. Everywhere in our body. You know, our circulation gets bad in our legs, circulation gets bad in our heart, and eventually you die of a heart attack.
Dude, jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only showman? Live from Houston, Texas, it's the go-to girl, the professional comedian, TV producer.
This is Dr. Arango with Arango Chiropractic Clinic to remind you that the knees take a lot of stress in everyday effort, and there are a few simple things that you can do to protect. Avoid walking.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only showman? Live from Houston, Texas, it's the go-to girl, the professional comedian, TV producer, and founder of MarriedDate.com. It's millionaire matchmaker, Amber.
Guys, it is Tough Love Tuesday here on the Matchmaker Hotline. It's your girl Matchmaker Amber Neal. I am live in studio with some awesome guests today, and we're going to talk about some tough love. We want to find out, is your personality what's stressing you out? And we're going to talk about some really great tips on how you can improve your life overall. So let's welcome everybody into the show. This lady can help you if, you know, sometimes we don't get the job because honestly, our headshot looks like we were in high school, or it looks so photoshopped that it's not even realistic. Or maybe you're a couple and you want to spice it up a little bit and you need something really sexy photos made that way. Y'all, welcome Tiffany into the show.
Hello.
Hey, she's a brand new photographer. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. She can make you look good is all I'm saying. Don't come to me, call her. Okay. So if you ever need matchmaking, I'm going to send you to her. You got to get your pictures done because we don't do 1984 pictures when we do matchmaking. That is one of the most deceptive things with online dating is the photos.
Yes.
Oh my God. It is like, what year was that? I know you looked great in high school, but give me a break. Okay. And then our resident psychotherapist, Chloe in the building. I love Chloe. Welcome back, girl. I love when you're here. Everybody always says they love when you're here. You just have this way with words that it's just like, you just want to like stay glued in. So y'all will see what I'm talking about in just a minute. And last but not least, JW Vortex is the building with Rosalind. She is the executive producer and creator of Becoming Houston reality show. So we're going to have a really great time today because Rosalind, you have dealt yourself when you have tried to cast for a reality show and then you had to cast again. What is this? Today's tough love, okay? So we're just going to keep it real. We're going to help people realize why you may be the problem, why you're not finding a job, you're not finding love, or your relationship may not be working because it's all about that reflection. So many people stay in a victim mentality, or some people can't see the vision, right? I don't see the money right now. What was your experience with the venue, get it set up, and then
money spent, and Coty knows too. This is my business partner. So I mean, and then again at the lake house, and then the show again at the photo shoot.
Yeah.
You know, had invested.
It wound up being so crazy that you wound up recasting the show.
But you know, the reality of that was it did create something different.
Yeah.
That I had no idea I was starting off. You know, blossom to something else. And it's okay. And I think that's stuff like this. I had to learn that dealing with people in relationships, you know, whether it's personal, professional, you know, you have to level up, you know, and that means move on. You know, if these people aren't, you know, in the flow, you know, and whether it's family, I had to deal with that on the show. Putting family in their position in my life, you know, professional and, you know, relationships and things of that nature. And of course, even with the people that I interviewed for the show, and those even that I followed, you know, their relationships blossomed into something else. So I had to stop following them, you know, because things move on. To me, in that nature, it wasn't any bad feelings because it was natural.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about intuitive communication.
Okay, so from
You know,
your
one of the
perspective,
things that I've always
I feel
found
like
very
from a
fascinating
publicist
is how we
standpoint, I'm a
instinctively
producer
have
myself. I
a
feel
connection
like
to
people
one
just
another.
don't,
And it's one of those
I don't even
things
lack
that no one
appreciation,
can
lack
really
of vision.
explain. They just
I
seem
mean,
to
if you're given this
feel it.
opportunity to be in a TV
I've
show,
always believed that
and you
in
just
the
don't show
realm
up,
of
like, who does that?
creativity, we're connected to a higher source. Some people call it the morphic field. Some people call it the cause of all causes, or the knowing, or God, or any number of different things. And whatever your belief systems are, you can appreciate that we all have a higher
Because if it wasn't, then everybody'd be on the other side, and there would be
intelligence. And that's why when I look at what is happening in the world,
scarcity is value.
Right.
And I wish we would move from that. But if you know, you only have one famous diamond, you know, it's shaped a different way, then everybody wants it.
Right.
What we have to start doing is in the fact of, as we say, tough love, understanding that we have to start loving ourselves. So there is no scarcity of a partner out there or an opportunity. You have plenty of opportunity to love yourself.
That's right. Wow, you know, that's kind of been the theme, and it's shocking how many things go back to that one issue of worth. Tiffany, when you're dealing with people that, and you stay booked so far in advance, but like when you're dealing with people with their career and branding, what are some things you find that hold people back from your perspective?
I think people just don't know what they want. And I think that boils down, I mean, even when it comes to the boudoir and it comes to my branding, I mean, all of it, honestly, people are like, well, what should I do? I'm like, it's your image.
Right.
Whatever side I'm photographing, this is you.
Yeah.
And you need to know you. So I have to spend the time to get to know you, to show you you.
Wow.
And then they see it after and they're like, wow, that's me. It's really a strange mentality.
That is, did y'all see that study? I don't remember what news outlet did it, but they were, they had like, let's just say they had 10 people, right? And they basically had people go in and sketch them, what they look like. But they had to tell them what they look like. And so the artist would sketch it based on what they told them. And they were like shocked at how beautiful they were. They were just like, I can't believe it. And I think that is really the theme, is that people don't believe that they deserve love, that opportunity, or whatever a case may be. So sometimes I guess it's not just the short-sightedness of the money, because, you know, people are like, where's the money? I'm like, we have to film for 6 months before we go sell it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people can't really see that part. But, you know, this article that came up I wanted to discuss with you guys in Psychology Today is your personality what's stressing you out? I mean, there's no secret that, you know, we feel stressed at work. And basically, we've just got to really determine, let's see what it says here in the article. There's different types of personalities. The 7 stress personalities are as follows. Pleasers want everyone to be happy. They go the extra mile, cover for their coworkers. They tackle whatever's needed to be done, and they graciously accept decisions that are agreeable for the greatest number of people, often sacrificing their own interest for the process.
Yeah.
You ever been a people pleaser? I know I have. Guilty.
I mean, I've been that yes person. I said that last time on the show.
Yeah.
But honey, I realized. Yeah.
I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle on that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know whether it was the way I was raised or what. I am very strong with boundaries.
That's great.
And even in a workplace, like I've had talks with coworkers about that in the past. There's certain boundaries, there's certain expectations that you put off, and you will be held to that expectation that you put off.
That's right.
So if you come in and you work till 11 o'clock every day, well, when you leave at 6, you're leaving early.
Right.
So there's boundaries to being a people pleaser. You can please, but you have to keep your own personal boundaries.
Absolutely. Because just basically saying over time, people pleasers may begin to feel resentful, unappreciated because they've taken on too much and don't get enough thanks for it.
Right. No one's going to treat. It's very seldom that you feel that people treat you the way you treat them, because here you are putting out 110, and most people, you can be the object of you can be the object of their attention for a moment, but you're not going to be the object of their attention 24 hours a day. So we're like, well, did you see what I did? Or, I stayed at work. Nobody asked you. Right?
Yeah.
You know, that was your choice. So that's why I think people pleasers, they really have to get that feeling of being used, because they're putting too much out there.
Yeah.
And nobody could ever repay them for all they're putting out there. You know?
I think of relationships like that, where people are like, they're trying to be the good girlfriend, so they go to the sporting events that they hate, or go hang out with the family that they hate, or whatever it is. I see a lot of people do that in relationships, not being true to themselves, and then 5 years later they wake up and it's like, hey, can we go do something but sports today? And they're kind of like, well, you knew that. I mean, that's because we weren't the one being true to ourselves in that situation. And it's people pleasing, and all this goes back to the original thing we talked about, just worth. Not knowing the boundaries. I think people are scared to set the boundaries because it's like, oh, you might not love me, you might not approve. The reality of it is, Chloe, don't you think it's more about getting that internally?
Yes, it is, because when you're trying to be a people pleaser, what are you trying to get? Approval.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about approval in a room, if you had 10 people, all of them would have different definitions of what they approve of.
Amen.
So here, one you and 10 ideas. So that becomes one of the factors that, even though you're trying to please everybody, they're never going to be pleased.
Right.
And you have an opportunity to have some power over one person, and that's yourself. And then you say, if I'm going to be pleased, let me please myself. And someone else says, oh no, that's selfish. No, that's not selfish. That's providing a basis so that if I am feeling my self-worth and I know what I have, I've got so much more to give.
Yeah.
Because there's no lack and limitation in that. So that becomes the biggest problem.
I like what you said in the beginning about just not having a scarcity mentality. And you can tell very quickly people that live in an abundance mentality and people that live in a scarcity mentality.
Right.
Abundance are the people that are give freely, and they don't mind sharing, and they don't mind helping because they know there's more. But it's the selfish people that try to cut your throat at work or try to backstab you or lie or make up rumors. They're the ones that are living in that scarcity mentality. Okay, so the second thing the second kind of personality that can be stressful, if you have it, is an internal timekeeper. Internal timekeepers like responsibility. They're energetic. They like being in charge of things. However, this can also lead them to take on too many duties, causing them to feel overwhelmed and anxious. Because their attention is divided among so many tasks, they become inefficient and stressed out. And unlike people pleasers, timekeepers are not driven by the need to make others happy, but rather by the need to feel competent and useful.
Right. So it's more self-directed. And it's kind of getting there now.
Yeah.
But it can also be an issue when you try to put everybody else on those timetables and schedule things. That's where the problem comes in. So we're getting back to, is it my personality or is it all these people? In a relationship that I have a significant other who's a planner, and I'm like flat. I get up in the morning and decide to do whatever, but he wants it planned.
Right.
So I have to take a very deep breath, and I love it because in his situation, he's doing that for me, and he's doing this for the world. He's keeping everything on track, and what's the outcome and everything. And so I said, well, I just have to accept that. And understand that I bring that uncertainty. So you have to learn how to.
It sounds like you guys are a good balance because he keeps you in line when the times you need to be in line, and you make him fly the times he needs to fly.
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. And they say opposites attract. It's really, can they stay together? What do you think, Bob?
Well, it's if you're going to find that you will always have a relationship with a person that you should never have a relationship with.
Yes.
That's just automatic. But you can't work out your own issues unless you are faced with these problems. So it's like this. You have to make a decision in this earth journey. Am I going to go ahead and do the work? And if you're going to go and do the work, you're going to have a lot of very interesting relationships because that's how you do your work. That's all it is.
Amen. So you guys think we're just kind of mirrors for each other? I feel like in relationship I've had, it's like I wasn't aware. I had a friend the other day go, I'm going to break up with this guy because he's always negative. He's always bitchy. He's always complaining. And I told her, I'm like, well, you're kind of like that. I mean, no offense, but you kind of are. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he's brought into your life to be that mirror for you. And I think where we go wrong is when we try to make those seasons a lifetime. Trying to put that circle in that square, and it's just like, ooh, it's not going. Okay. Internal timekeepers, definitely strivers. Strivers are ambitious and competitive. They always have an eye on what their coworkers are up to and push themselves to be the best worker in the cohort. They need to always be number one, and they place unreasonable demands on themselves and lead to burnout in short order. Strivers may also become envious over the success of others. Boo.
Yeah.
I've met a few of them.
So needed.
At what cost? You know what I mean?
But they're so needed because I'm not that person.
Well, there's a level of work that they do and commitment that they have that is very valuable in a corporate sense. Now, in a relationship sense, that may be too much, but in a corporate sense, they are needed.
Now, the strivers, they become more positive when they realize that they can take their striving and put it in a group setting. It's like if you're leading a group or something like that, then that's where that striving comes from. Really positive. But if it's a person who is sitting there trying to compare themselves with the situation of someone else or how much someone else has or doesn't have, and they're sitting there doing that comparison, then that's when that striving is unhealthy.
That's a bad part.
Yeah, because you're putting yourself in competition with everybody else on this planet.
It's so crazy.
Rather than working. So that's why I say you can take that energy and bring people together to work on this a situation, But if you're doing that one-on-one, it never works.
Well, and the way they beat themselves up is just, it's almost hard to watch. I know somebody who is that way. And man, watching him sometimes is like watching a bomb go off.
And in that, what do you think he was trying to achieve? What was it that he didn't get?
You never know. Yeah, because it's all internal.
And it keeps going one up. If I do this and I need to do this and then there's never a point where it's like, peace, be still.
It sounds like it goes back to worth issues. Like, what are you trying to prove externally? You know what I mean? And healing is not for the weak. It is a very hard journey. But have y'all ever had somebody at work that basically if y'all weren't friends, that they would have stepped on you to get over you. You know what
Yes.
I mean? I had a girlfriend of mine. I got her a job with me, and I swear, if we weren't friends, she got almost everybody in the company in trouble except me. And we eventually fell out over that because she started talking to my man behind my back. So, like, her true nature was always the same, and it was just that opportunist, you know. And it's hard when you really are trying to help your friends, and they at all costs.
Hard, but here we go again as we're talking about being, let's say, real with the situation.
Yeah.
When you have a person, and this is this tough love, when you know that people are a certain way, quit expecting them to adapt to you because they're not. You know, Maya Angelou said one of the greatest mistakes we make in life is when a person shows us themselves, we refuse to accept it because we're so busy over here saying, I'm going to make you into what I want you to be. So
That's
that
right.
friend of yours, you saw her as a friend, but if you'd been able to just look at her and say, oh, this is a very ambitious girl.
Yeah.
And you probably could have dealt with her in a different way where it would not have turned out this way. Going up to her and say, I see what you're doing. And if you want to get ahead, this is not the way to get ahead because you're going to have to go through me.
Yeah, I kind of said something similar to that.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I said it. Y'all know me, I'm not a pushover.
Well, I feel like those personality types, though, they have a really hard time getting that kind of critique. They, when you give them that critique, you've stabbed them. And so that's where that becomes, where you probably ran into the problem is you stabbed her.
Oh, I did.
And you didn't stab her, you gave her real. Like, this is you,
They were tough love.
deal with it.
Yeah, that's tough love.
Yeah.
This is not the way to get over. I mean, this is not the way you advance. You know,
No.
you need to build relationships. But she never understood that. But that also goes back to her past and how she grew up and everything like that. And it's like, dude. And what made me even offer her the job was that she had 3 jobs when I met her. She was hard working. I'm like, dude, I can get you one job making more money than you're making in all 3 jobs. And then she tried to cut everybody's throat in there. But then it was one of those like passive aggressive. She wasn't really trying to mess me over, but she wasn't trying to like make me shine either. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, like and then not too long after that, I was dating this guy and her son decided that he liked him. And then next thing I know, they're together. And I'm like, dude, you'll take anything from anybody. You have no shame whatsoever.
There's no boundaries there.
God.
There's no boundaries. No
How sad, though.
I mean, you know.
She wound up without a job, without the guy, without.
I mean, but when it comes to relationships, there's none. You know,
Yeah.
that's just horrible.
Can I ask you guys something funny? Do you guys all ever look at somebody and think, I know exactly who you were in high school?
Yeah. Dude,
Yes.
I say
Yes,
that
and
all
that's that personality. That personality is a strong one because they have no loyalty to anybody. So if A or B or C at the moment is standing there and they're not getting along, they'll hit A, B, and C at the same time, and then come to you and hit you, and you're like, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
Because everybody hates each other worse now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that, Chloe? Why do people, I swear, I say it all the time. I swear I can tell you who you were in high school by the way you act.
Because most of us haven't grown up.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, becoming this person that you hopefully will become, sometimes we hit different stages at different times. That's why when you cross paths with people and your journey gets together, you're at that stage with that person at that time, but you move on, you grow. And if we were more accepting of that, then I think we could grow faster and better.
Yeah.
But most of us, well, wait a minute. This is not real. I'm going to try it again. Wait a minute. I didn't see it that way. I'm going to try it again. If you can just cut your losses sometimes and move forward, then it makes it much easier.
But that's so hard, especially since a friendship.
Yeah, 15 years. We were friends 15 years when that happened. I just finally had to cut her out of my life. I couldn't do it anymore.
But there's emotional investment that you have to let go of, and that's the hardest part. I had a friend that, like, we became, like, best friends overnight, like the kind you have in high school where, like, you, like, go away and share a toothbrush, you know what I mean? Like that kind of friendship. You pee in the same room, you know what I mean? Like that kind of deep woman friendship.
But you have to stop and think. If you value that friendship so much and the other person doesn't, then and you're saying, but it's been a long time. Well, maybe it's a long time for you to have now learned the lesson that you are so valuable that you need to be in a relationship that someone values you just that much.
It took me a year to accept that. A whole year.
It's like mourning a death when you have to let people go.
It is.
it's the death of your ignorance about what you're worth. You want to learn what you're worth. And you deserve to have people in your life that value you every step of the way. And there are people there. You don't have to stop and pick the daffodils when the roses are there. Unless you like daffodils. I have no problem with that. But that's what I said. Understanding who you're dealing with. You know. And I have friends in my life, and I know that we've got some issues. But you know what I always say to myself? I say, okay, I'm still here because I'm trying to learn a lesson. Okay, I'm going to keep my eyes wide open because this does not feel good. And I want to move forward, but I don't want to miss the lesson. And I sit there then I absorb it. Not saying, she's got a problem, I don't know what's going on. I got the problem, I'm still there.
Tough love today, y'all.
Yes, that's so true.
Rosalind, do you think that was some of the problem with the show was, we had too many strivers in the group?
Well, yeah.
couldn't share the spotlight, you know what I mean?
Yeah, couldn't share the spotlight, didn't know what the spotlight was, I know starting off I did have one person who was very dedicated, and I saw that and I was able to write her story out really well and follow her really well. And she, had to experience relationships with the other two ladies in the group, and those wasn't good experiences, But it made it to where you can see her progression and where she came from and how she had to let go, and realize and that's too, in different areas for the other ladies. Whether I had one lady that was married, she deciding to, hey, do I need to let go of this marriage for so long, being young. I've been married, so but so making those choices, it's difficult. But they're also a part of nature in the sense of movement, in relationships, right? So you just have to know yourself and know where you're at and know where you fit at in those relationships and say, okay, you worth sticking around for, or you know what I mean, or this was just our season.
That was the heart of it. I mean, just the name of the show, Becoming Houston. It is. Whether it was good or bad experiences in there, you successfully captured so many of us that literally, yourself included, that became different. I mean, you documented my whole self-love journey. Y'all, mine is in film. So whenever that comes out, I'm going to be like, oh my God. But, I'm over the shame of all that now, and I'm really ready to talk about it and help other people and understand, man, people can tell you all day long, you got to love yourself first. You gotta love yourself first. And you're like, oh, it's a cliche, blah, 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 blah. You don't even hear it. But wow.
But it's so crazy.
It's so real.
I had to wait for those ladies to reach those stages.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because they didn't realize, okay, there's something there, I have to go through this. But when they walking around doing conferences,
living their
telling
best
their
life.
story.
Yes.
It's okay, you've accepted that, and
I was going to say, that's what I do in my boudoir world, is I teach self-love to women who don't know how to begin that journey, because they have to start with, okay, fine, I'll try this. I mean, it really, for a woman to, let's say 60% of women, because there are women who are like, sure, okay, let's go. Yeah. But let's say 60% of women, they have to overcome this mental hurdle of, okay, fine, I'm going to try this. And believe me, they walk in ready to get their makeup on, and sometimes they are covering themselves. They're fully dressed, and they walk in like this already. I mean, the barrier is up. Yeah, and just getting them by the end of it, they're like, what do you want me to do? Sure, I'll try that. Anything you want me to do. And so, and they actually get to see their pictures, no Photoshop, no nothing. They sit down and they see the pictures just after I do it. And they literally, it's amazing to watch, because you watch this woman who came in who literally was shaking because she was like, what is this woman going to make me do? And by the end of it, they're like, wow, that's me.
See, and I think that's what a lot of people in a way are looking for in life. When we talk about that outside validation, they're looking for someone else to see them a lot better than they see themselves. Because in your occupation, that's your vision of them. And they're so amazed by your vision of them, then they can kind of buy into your vision. So that's even finding a partner. We tend to find people who have this great vision of us.
Isn't that something? It's like what other people see in you. It's like they don't see in themselves, so you're attracted to that. Well, we got to take a quick break. We're going to come right back on the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. Today, we're talking about tough love. If you want to join in the conversation, join us at 281-587-1540. It's your girl, Matchmaker Amber Neal, on Edge Radio, 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
So let's talk a little bit about intuitive communication. You know, one of the things that I've always found very fascinating is how we instinctively have a connection to one another. And it's one of those things that no one can really explain. They just seem to feel it. I've always believed that in the realm of creativity, we're connected to a higher source. Some people call it the morphic field. Some people call it the cause of all causes, or the knowing, or God, or any number of different things. And whatever your belief systems are, you can appreciate that we all have a higher intelligence. And that's why when I look at what is happening in the world right now with vitriolic speech and with people who are promoting hate and divisiveness, it's really a sad state of affairs. I mean, if you think about the beauty and the diversity that we have on this planet, you think about all the amazing people that can contribute amazing things. There's not one person that has not experienced some foreign food, some ethnic flavor that you absolutely love to this day. Well, what if that person didn't exist? What if everybody just ate this one thing that was part of your culture? You see, that would take the fun out of life. Same thing with music, same thing with fashion, same thing with architecture, same thing with every form of artistic expression. That's what our Creator had in mind when He put us on this planet, to have that kind of wonderful, amazing, creative, synergistic diversity. And when someone has that, that's when they can really appreciate from a worldview how amazing this planet truly is. So I invite you to really open yourself up to intuitive communication, to become intentional about how you feel about your life and your interaction with everyone in your life, whether they're just like you, different than you, or somebody who can become like you, as in you being a mentor to them. So, as Gandhi says, become the love you want in your life. Thank you for listening. I'm Oscar Hines, ninjatalks.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only gentleman? Live from Houston, Texas. It's the go-to girl, the professional comedian, TV producer, and founder of MarriedDate.com. It's millionaire matchmaker, Amber. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only gentleman? Live from Houston, Texas. It's the go-to girl, the professional comedian, TV producer, and founder of MarriedDate.com. It's millionaire matchmaker, Amber.
Hey guys, welcome back into the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. It is Tough Love Tuesdays. Joining me in the studio today is Tiffany, Chloe, and Roz. Welcome back into the show. Today we've been talking about the different types of personalities. According to Psychology Today, you might have one of these 7 personalities that's making you miserable, and sometimes you might be the problem. So today we're going to help you get past your own BS to change your life, because you don't really change your life until you get your truth, right, Chloe?
Right. You have to get your own truth so you know which path you're going. You know, a lot of us have tried to be somebody for someone else. And that, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody
Guilty.
raise their hands.
Can I raise a foot?
Yeah, you can raise a foot. So we just gotta go ahead and make a decision who we want to be. And
Yes.
it's okay, even if in the middle of the stream you decide, that's not what I want. And that's, at least that's you.
Yes.
And you're making those decisions.
Well, today we were talking about, is your personality stressing you out? We've already gone over the different types of pleasers, internal timekeepers, and strivers. And this next one is the inner con artist. Inner con artists do not work very hard, and they may be unaware of just how hard their coworkers are working. They regularly underestimate how quickly they can get things done and how much effort it will take to be successful. Consequently, inner con artists may procrastinate and fall behind because they also wish to avoid conflict. They don't communicate with the boss or their colleagues until it's too late to dig themselves out of a hole that they find themselves in. What's the difference between an inner? Is that saying you're playing yourself? You're being a con artist to yourself. Okay, because I know some con artists. Okay, what's another job? Posers, narcissists. Anyway, but what is an inner con artist? I mean, it's just somebody that just you're lying to yourself all the time.
I think that's exactly what it means, is that you are conning your own perception. You can see that you've got a lot of work to do, but you say, I can get that done in an hour. And of course, you go over there, you have an hour, and it doesn't get done. And then you're frustrated. Or I have a little bit of inner con artist within me because I do time that way.
Yeah.
Since I own time, I forget sometimes. And I'll say, I can get there on time, so I'm always late.
I suffer from that sometimes.
I'm always late because I'm thinking, I have enough time for it.
Yeah.
My inner con artist tells me that you can go on and do anything you want to do and da. So when you got enough time, we'll make a few more minutes.
Go ahead and
for
stop
you.
by Ross.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
you'll be on time. You know.
Go look for some cute shoes with that dress.
So that's what that inner con artist does. It allows you to make excuses for your own issues.
Wow.
Isn't that procrastination?
Procrastination is.
Like, you know what I mean? I feel like everyone has a little bit of it in them. Like, I feel like nobody could say they don't con themselves in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But see, procrastination actually is kind of an interesting process because that person is a perfectionist in a sense. See?
I can see that.
And so they will go and make sure everything else is perfect. So then it'll be in the perfect setting so I can perfectly finish this.
Wow.
So
On my time.
On your time. But believe me, usually procrastinators are not just sitting there waiting and letting it go. They're off doing other things and not finishing those either.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of people that just like never like the perpetual student, just always going to school but never really getting a degree, just always going or changing. And I don't know. I think mine. I always say I have ADD, but I think that's more of mine. It's just like I think I can accomplish all these things, and then I'm like, oh my God, I just spread myself too thin. You know what I mean? It's like I think I can do it, but I don't know. What do you think? Did you think there was any of that going on in the show, Roz?
I think that was for me. I guess because for me, in my thought, I have this nice double deck oven, and I have things on top of the aisle, and I can put them in the first layer oven and let it start bubbling, and I'm, and it's not procrastinating or whatever. It's just the timing, of things for me.
Yeah.
I've learned to put it that way.
That's the inner comment artist.
Yes, and you see how beautiful I was that? And accept that that's the flow of it. Because too, I don't. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I guess at some things.
I feel like we all do that when we don't want to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I am guilty. I will tell y'all right now. Yeah. If I don't want to do something, I will put it off. Or if, I don't know, I don't want to look at something.
But do you end up doing it?
Always yes.
So see, that's at the point that aha moment will be, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So how can I make this as fun for myself or as interesting for myself? That's where you turn the tide in that moment. Because understand, I don't want to do it, but I always end up doing it. So, so why should I have to feel the brunt of this? Why can't I make this exciting? Or
Make it work for
or
you.
do it a little faster so I can get it over. But you have to insert that, because if not, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. Oh, I can go do the dishes. I'd rather call my mother. Let me go do my pedicure. I'm going to think about this. I don't know why I'm doing this. Let me wash the car and think about it. And then you do it.
Yeah.
So you really expended all that energy.
And done 20 more things.
Yes.
Wow. Man, you guys, I love Tough Love Tuesdays, because sometimes we be playing ourselves for real. Woo, okay. The next personality type that, if you have this, you might be driving yourself crazy, is the critical judges. They are their own worst enemies. They set high personal standards and are very hard on themselves when they make mistakes. They tend to ruminate their shortcomings and on past failures in a complete unproductive way, leading to a downward spiral and a crisis of confidence.
I have another name for this. It's called an artist.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel kind of guilty about that one a little bit. I'm pretty hardcore on myself, so but I was raised by a military father, so I'm used to a militant personality.
This is one of the reasons that a lot of people don't have relationships, is because we put this critique to a point that it runs our lives. And a lot of girls will say, well, I'm only going to marry a doctor, or I'm only going to marry a guy that looks a certain way, and you don't allow other things to come in because you feel that you will be judged, and you are judging at these levels, So it really limits your ability to get a mate. It limits your ability to have friends and have a great lifestyle, because you won't let a lot of things come in, because you prejudge what the status is and what the outcome is going to be. And it's not real.
That's real.
There's also another side to this that comes out is depression.
Yes.
And it's a hardcore side to it that people don't like to talk about, but there's bad depression that comes from self-judgment.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And the basic piece of this is when a person can finally realize, say, wait a minute. And I love telling the story about us being champions, is that you are worth so much. And the fact that you made it through the initial biological process, and if you became who you are a champion. So setting yourself up to all these layers and standards, okay, that's nice. But hug yourself and say, hey, but I'm here, and I'm going to go through this journey, and I'm loving this journey. Loving the journey, and not necessarily what passes by.
Sure.
Because your circumstances today will not necessarily determine your outcome.
Right.
You're not destined to be in the same situation. Some of us are walking on two legs right now, and who knows, at the end we may not have two legs. So you need to enjoy those legs.
Yes. I'm serious. I think of those little things, I can see you, I walked in here. And I think that's just, as a matchmaker, I'm always, challenging people to live their best life now. And everybody wants to wait for the perfect time. And I'm like, dude, there's no perfect time. I can see you. I literally say this to people. I can see you. You walked in here. You should not take time for granted, all the things we have. But so many people, speaking of matchmaking, especially being a millionaire matchmaker, I cannot tell you how many people prioritize, this guy drives the right car, and he's from the right school, and he's got the right look, and my friends are going to love him, my parents are going to love him, everybody's going to love him. But they don't really think if they love them. You know what I mean? They love status over.
And what they're really needing is that guy that gives them kisses on their forehead, rubs their feet, and tells them, I'm sorry you had a hard day at work, and let's go for a walk.
Cooks them breakfast.
Yes.
Doesn't make them ask to do things.
Right.
Washes the car for me.
Right. And so he not only works at Walmart, but he works at Walmart.
Right.
But that's because he likes being around people.
Right. Right.
People have the judgment, and then they judge themselves out of a lot of things. I'm not saying don't have standards and high achievements, but don't be so critical if you don't hit those marks that you say determine who you are.
Yeah.
The marks that should be hit are your humanity. You're enjoying this life. People, like I said, the depression gets you to a point where you cannot enjoy this life. And it's so uncanny that we do create that, because we can't even create our life, but we can create depression. Come on, people.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. The thing,
Amen to that one.
Especially with the coronavirus and everything that's happened, it's just, you would think that people now would really, with people dying of this thing, I mean, people die all the time, but you would think people would, we've had time to slow down. We've had time to reevaluate. You know, people are inventing themselves and changing their lifestyle and getting plugged back into family and getting back into the things and their passions and their dreams. And it's like, dude, I've been on autopilot for 20 years. Do I even want to do this job, or is this it? You know, and it's just, it is, life is short. And I think just don't take time for granted, because, you know, when we're looking at power couples to me are not money, fame, fortune. If it can change, your looks can change, your money can change, the car you drive, your career, any of that stuff that can change, if that's your foundation or if that's your priorities, well, if something bad happens, then, well, I mean, look at how the divorce request has gone up, doubled in the last month, Chloe.
Right.
Doubled. I'm sure you're getting lots of business. But wow, you know, even Jada and Will, they've been married forever, and she said, wow, I didn't even know Will until we got in quarantine together. It's amazing how many people say they didn't know their spouse after 20 years, and it took quarantine to get to know them. What in the world?
I think people are too busy, like you said.
Yeah.
And so, like, I find, so I've been married to John for 15 years this year. And
Yay.
he's a teacher. We are not rolling in the dough by any means. You know, we drive normal people cars. We have a normal people house. We have 3 kids. But what's been really cool about COVID was he was home, I was home, they were home. Yes, we wanted to like go crazy because we were homeschooling 3 kids and both working, right? But like we would go out at 11 o'clock in the afternoon and sit with we quarantined with a few of our neighbors because the kids little, you know, oof. So they would all go play outside and we'd sit there. And John and I had conversations that we never would have had. John and I decided to go grocery shopping, became fun. Oh my God, people were laughing. Oh my God, yes. People were laughing at us in the store because like he would like try to like zoom ahead of me and I would like throw jokes at him and he would like be pointing at me across. I mean, people were like laughing at us. They were like, what are these 2 crazy people doing? But that was like a date during COVID.
That was delicious.
Right?
That is what they were doing on Tinder. They were meeting at the supermarket for dates. That was the only place we could go. Yeah.
You know,
Tinder dates at the supermarket.
We went through such a period of time, and it was due. Something about you have to understand about the earth and nature is that it will come back around and come get its balance. And we had to start getting so electronic orientated. We start not paying attention to one another. And now we are face to face with each other. And it's wonderful because now we talked about that reflection and we reflect our humanity and we reflect our joy. And that's what we needed. You can look into a phone all day, but it's not going to give you that kind of reflection. It's not going to give you those kinds of things that you need so that you can create and that you can become a better person.
Yeah.
It's going to just reflect what's there. It's going to do these other things. So this has just been phenomenal, and it was time. And if we just saw how our earth is healing during the time that we just stopped for a moment, I'm like, oh, this is great.
I feel it. I can tell that the consciousness and even the culture is shift. There's definitely been a shift, and I think that I'm hoping that not to delve off too deep into it, but with everything with George Floyd and him passing away with the cop and everything, and it's like, my God, can we just, I mean, it sounds cliche, but can we finally just stop? I mean, can we get along? Because I know majority of Americans at this point don't feel that way. That is a reflection of a certain small, tiny group of people that still have hate going on. And unfortunately, they carry a gun sometimes. But not all cops are bad. So it's just like saying all one race is bad or one profession is bad.
But see, this is an unveiling.
Yes.
It's been here, and now we had time for it to unveil.
Yeah.
Because if we all had not been at home when all this situation happened, we would have heard it on the news and moved on.
Exactly.
But we're right here, and it's in our face, and we're saying now it's time we have to come to amends with this. And it is a situation that will allow us to become more loving, allow us to become more equal in a lot of things and understand each other because we have time. And you look at this and say, so the earth stopped just during this time so we could do this because it said we needed to be healed.
Amen.
Well, and I will say the fascinating thing about all of this together at the moment that it's in is it's provided a moment where you are with your kids and you can educate your children in a way that when we're going at a 10, it would have gone in the news. It would have hit a minute and it would have gone away. And the kids would have maybe heard it a little bit. But now, like, I'm seeing a lot of my friends are posting, this is a great article to read to your children. This is a great way to teach your children things not to do, and it's needed.
It's interesting you brought that up, but go ahead.
Real quick, I feel like we're evolving. I feel like we're unfolding. And I think if we continue on that path, I'm so excited. I feel it in my soul. I feel like we could just continue on that path. Yes, we had to go through things, and it's rough. It's very, very rough. But I think we're on the brink of changing. And I'm looking forward to that.
I think we can feel it. I mean, it's just one of the things I want to ask you about, Chloe. We were going to talk about this. We'll come back to the personality types that are stressing you out because it's a little more serious. One of the articles I found in Psychology Today was the dangers of colorblind socialization, and that is exactly what you addressed. Instead of if you're not black, that's where you get opportunity. Don't ignore it. Don't just sweep it under the rug. Don't not talk about it to your kids. Hey, use this time to make this as an example of this is wrong. Right. This is what is, right or wrong. But a lot of times people feel uncomfortable addressing that kind of thing. And then you've got dangers that come with having a colorblind socialization. We have to acknowledge that. What do you think, Chloe?
Well, racism is something that is absolutely devastating to both the person that is the subject of racism and the person that is perpetuating it, because it's hate orientated. But really the basic emotion is fear. And that's what drives it. So the only way, like I said, have to uncover. The only way that you can get through it is not be afraid. And let someone know, and people know your intent. If you truly don't understand something and you need to get some questions answered, or I had a friend who has a biracial child, and she didn't know how to comb her hair, and we laughed as her hair was growing, and we tell her all the different things because that's just a natural cultural thing.
Sure.
Yes. But I remember when I was growing up, there were some children that were biracial, and that no one wanted to talk about what was going on, and there was nobody that wanted to help solve the situation. So the poor girl went to the high school with awful hair, and she had beautiful hair. She just didn't know have that extra information. And amongst us, we have knowledge that's so unreal, and we can share with each other. And it's just those barriers that make me afraid. So don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to tell your children. So what do you think? Hear what they think. So no, you might not want to say that, or that's not the way it happened, or that's not what Uncle Joe, he comes from a different era and that's what he was taught. Do you think it's right? Just work with everybody, because none of us in here or in the United States purebred anything.
I know that's right.
We're a bunch of little nuts and mongrels, and those are the best pets I've always been told. They're loving.
That's why I think you're right. It's not about assuming. One of the things in the article, she said that the problem with parents staying silent, letting kids figuring out race and racism on their own, is that kids might get it wrong and not realize that they need help. Several years ago, I saw this problem firsthand working with a child on a classification task. The task required the child to sort out pictures of people in groups. And then, for example, a child might do race, gender, age, but a 5-year-old white child was tested sorting out pictures based on skin color and labeled the groups as smoked, or not smoked. And when, so you automatically think it means that, right?
I mean, 5. So,
but when I asked why he used those labels, he explained that his parents had told him that smoking cigarettes turn your lungs black. So he assumed that cigarettes turned your skin black too. But that's a perfect example of why you must talk to your children about why racism is wrong. Yeah. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And if you just stand by idly and do nothing and don't get involved, I think you're part of the problem as well. But that's just my personal opinion, not the station. Okay.
We used to ask children when I worked in the residential facilities, and we had a lot of children that were different ethnic and racial groups. And I would ask them, which one of you made yourself? And they said, made myself? What do you mean? I mean, you created yourself. Which one of you created yourself and decided to come to Earth? And that's kind of an interesting question to ask some children, because some of them are a little psychotic. So I was waiting for, but they thought about it. They said, no, not that I know of. I said, okay, so you just ended up here. So how can you take credit for anything about yourself?
Wow.
You have no credit about yourself. This is your vessel, and this is what you work with. But it's not a better vessel than anybody else's vessel, and you didn't have anything to do with it.
That's right. You could have been born anywhere in the world, any race, any gender. You could have been anybody.
Yeah, you just woke up.
This is what your experience is. But it goes back to what you're saying. It's the lessons, it's the experience, it's the journey, guys. You know what I mean?
And some of us have to learn different journeys and different skin colors and in different genders and in different things. That's just my belief. And I think it's all about joy and love.
Yes.
You learn to love yourself in spite of yourself.
Amen. Amen. That you're speaking the truth today, Chloe. We got 2 more personality types we're going to take, because we have about 5 minutes before we got to take another break. The next one, we're going back to Psychology Today has an article. It says, "Is your personality stressing you out?" If you want to read the whole thing. So the last 2 here are warriors. Warriors obsess about the future. I mean, even Jesus said, "Don't worry about tomorrow. It's got its own troubles."
This is a time that I meet a lot of people who are very worried because they've never been in a situation like this, and they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And I go back to, I remember, I think it was Deepak Chopra who said, "We live this world on in a lie. And the lie is that we think this is permanent." He said, "But none of us are going to get out of here alive."
Amen.
None of us. And so when we start basing all this on permanence, then that it's like, it's not permanent, but you want it to be permanent. Then we have this discrepancy. And that, he says that causes us a lot of anguish because we know the truth, but we're not accepting the truth.
Right.
So when you start thinking about worrying, like my daughter once told me when she was a very little girl, she said, "Mommy, worrying is like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere."
Wow, that's profound for a little girl. Wow, that's so real.
She learned that in school, and so it's like it'll give you something to do, but it's not going to take care of anything but take some space and time. So what you start learning to do is address that.
Absolutely.
And say, is there something I can do about it?
Yeah.
No, that's that serenity prayer, right? Is there something I can do about it? No. Well, then let me do something else. Let me do something I can do something about.
Yes.
So, and right now, this is what has people going in a tizzy because they think they can stop this pandemic. Well, you know what you can do? You can be safe.
Yeah.
You can take care of your family. You can love your family more. You can go to the grocery store more with your husband and be funny. Those are the things you can do.
I want to introduce to you a gentleman that I've come to know and really appreciate, Dr. Raul Rodriguez from Rodriguez Rejuvenation. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
To really manifesting things in your life, you won't worry anymore. It's not that fear sometimes can still creep in. We have to practice that over and over. But so much of manifesting that a lot of people don't understand is about once you've envisioned it, you got to let it go and then be okay with the outcome. We're like so hell-bent on it's this outcome, this date, that's our control. That's really not allowing God to work and perform miracles in your life. Let's take a quick break. We are going to be right back in about 2 minutes. You guys are listening to the Edge Radio All New Matchmaker Hotline. It's your girl, Matchmaker Amber Neal. You are listening to 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. Call in and talk to us on the hotline, 281-587-1540. We'll be back right after this.
Started in my career as in cosmetic surgery and aesthetic medicine over 20 years ago. And I've always been an innovator in everything that I've done. And I was fortunate enough to be featured on ABC News 2020 back in 2003 with Barbara Walters doing the introduction. Could this be the answer to your
Barbara
dreams?
Walters and Hugh Downs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, we didn't want to end up on the Give Me a Break segment with John Salza, but fortunately, we were the featured segment on 2020. So I've always been an innovator in everything that I've done on the area of aesthetics and rejuvenation as well. I realized many years ago that it took more than just a scalpel to make somebody look younger and feel younger. And I incorporated into my practice bioidentical hormone replacement, optimal nutrition, other things. I mean, what's the use in looking younger if you don't feel good?
Yes.
So a lot of what I do and integrate in my practice is not just designed to help you look younger, help you look more fresh for women as well as men, but also to make you feel younger and ultimately even function younger, as we'll get into a little bit more with our segment.
With regard to men and erectile dysfunction, this has become very pervasive, and to my surprise, I'm hearing men in their 30s are having issues right now. Is that right?
Yes, it's true. And in my practice, I've had a 50-something-year-old father that brought his 26-year-old son in because he had different issues.
Wow.
With the issue of erectile dysfunction, and I would like to rephrase that and let's rename it as erectile functioning. The circulation gets poorer as we get older, everywhere in our body. Our circulation gets bad in our legs, circulation gets bad in our heart, and eventually you die of a heart attack. Well, the same thing happens with erectile function in men. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not a psychological issue. It's an issue that simply has to do with the fact the circulation there is not as good as it was when you were 25 years old.
Yes.
But now we have technology to reverse some of those changes, some of that deterioration of circulation to help restore more normal blood flow and circulation to the area, even though it's 25 years down the road from when you used to be 25. The procedures that I'm talking about is a procedure that actually helps stimulate the formation of new blood vessels in the area, so it restores a more normal blood flow, more normal circulation, a more normal, healthier, younger function.
You have a procedure that you've revolutionized, and now in the industry there is an option. Tell us about what that process is and how it works.
That's called the Rod Rock procedure. Rod for Rodriguez and Rock, ROC, for restoration of circulation.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Restoration of circulation. The Rod Rock treatment.
The Rod Rock treatment. Now, essentially what I've done is combine different modalities that have been around for a long time, but combine them to get synergy in stimulating new blood flow, new blood vessel formation in the penis.
Yes.
And particularly in the part of the male organ that dilates with blood, called the corpora cavernosa. And that particular treatment involves using some instrumentation with machines to deliver energy to the area, but also I combine that with stem cells. There's a lot of stuff in the news about stem cells and the capacity of stem cells to rejuvenate tissues, to heal things. And I take those different modalities and combine them in a 2-week protocol to actually get significant improvement in over 95% of the people that have the treatment.
Wow. And you're saying it's a process that's only about 2 weeks in length?
It's about 2 weeks. Right. Wow. It's 2 weeks. You come into the office, 3 times a week. It's 2 to 3 weeks. I can adjust it to the patient's schedule. 2 to 3 times a week for 2 consecutive weeks. Okay. And then after that, you may not have to have another session until a year, maybe 2 years down the road.
So, Dr. Rodriguez, we are just about out of time. Can you tell folks how they can connect to you?
RodriguezRejuvenation.com.
Hey guys, welcome back into the All Matchmaker Hotline. Today we're talking about if your personality might be what to make it good. We're here to give you some tough love. Welcome back into the studio, Tiffany, Chloe, and Rosalind. Yay! So we pretty much got through all the different personality types. If you want to read the whole article, go to Psychology Today, and it's titled, "Is Your Personality Stressing You Out?" So the last one that we were talking about here, we were talking about people that worry themselves sick. And the last personality that might be driving you nuts is, are you a saber-tooth? Saber-tooths respond to stress with anger. They become caustic and insulting to their coworkers, creating a negative vibe in the workplace that is highly contagious. One or two saber-tooths at the office can create a toxic environment that ruins everything for everyone. Do you recognize yourself in any of these descriptions? What do you think about saber-tooth? Is anger really just hurt that it's not processed that way? Like in the sadness comes on anger like a defense?
Because most of the time, if you're angry, then that keeps you safe in a sense from other people. They'll stop whatever they do. Because anger is good and bad. I do want to say that but anger has its purpose and it needs to be understood. It's trying to figure out what's going on, to be respected, and they usually want behavior to stop. So if someone gets angry, they usually get all of those things. Somebody will either tell them what's going on, or they figure it out, or they'll behavior to stop, or they start respecting. So in a workplace, a lot of times I see anger because I've seen anger because someone got upset that they were found out or that they didn't meet the criteria or whatever. So it was more fear of being exposed.
Right.
And then they start blaming. So the anger moves to blaming.
You know, is anger, somebody said that anger is just, how did they say it? It's just, it's fear and it is pain that is just not expressed. I forget how the saying is, but do you think, one thing I've noticed in people I've met that I tend to like be explosive with their personalities like that, a common thread has been that they were abused when they were younger and they just refuse to take any crap off anyone anymore. And I think it's just, they haven't healed yet.
It used to be kind of with gender situation. They used to say that males tend to be angry where females tend to be depressed. So depression is anger taken inward. And so one good thing about anger outward, if it doesn't hurt another person, it's much healthier for it to come out than in.
Right.
I also feel like sometimes a saber-tooth may be the person who doesn't necessarily get ahead, stays in that same spot.
Yeah.
And no matter how much they try and how much they work as hard as they can, I mean, they may not be a right fit for the next step up. And they can't see why. And so then they get mad. I've worked with a few people who, were career receptionists, that was where they couldn't get above that because the next level was very tough for them. It was very tough to do that kind of work. It was very tough to keep up with the deadlines. It was very tough for that. And there tends to be some anger with that. I mean, not the majority of people, but certain people, then they get mad. So they're like, why? Why me?
Right. I think that if you're a career receptionist, anyway, I think you might want to look and see. I'm sure when you were little, you didn't grow up and go, oh, one day I want to be a career receptionist. I think a lot of times people haven't found their passion. They haven't really decided that they settled, or maybe they're just lazy and just don't want to work hard. It's like, I just want the minimal job and minimal career. Not everybody's ambitious. Not everybody wants to go get it. Some people just want to be left the hell alone and go punch in the clock and go home and have a peaceful life. And that's okay too. And I think it's just, we judge others so much how we see ourselves. But let me ask you this, Chloe. Is anger just, someone once told me that anger is when you feel like you get mad when you feel like someone did something to you on purpose. That's where the anger comes from. Like, for example, they cut you off in traffic, or they, lied on you, or they did whatever. It's like anger comes from feeling like it was done deliberately.
I would say that could be a part of it, but I also feel that people get angry because they feel that they're disrespected. I feel you disrespected me when you cut in front of me. You wouldn't have done that to just anybody, but to me. So now I've got to show you that you're going to respect me. It is anger comes from so much hurt, and what angry people do is try to push the hurt out so that you can feel it too. I'm hurting, and I need you to hurt too. I need you to see how I'm feeling. So it's a mechanism of communication that, if used correctly, it can take care of some things. You can start letting people know I'm angry, but in a way that they can accept it.
Right.
Rather than I stab you and
let's see what happens.
Cut you up a little bit, okay? But let's get some work done. Yeah.
Okay. Well, finishing up in this part of the conversation, the problem with tough love is that it feels really good to deliver, but if it's too harsh, it doesn't work. So it's really just the last question dealing with tough love is, as far as all relationships, how do you know how far you can go with, because your heart might be in the right place. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just telling you. But if they're not ready to receive it, they might get defensive or offended.
Well, I want to say this. Before you go and try to give somebody else tough love, be ready to accept tough love.
Amen.
Because that opens the floodgates. And that's where a lot of people have the problems with. You're coming at me, so of course I'm going to get defensive and come at you. And I find that the easiest and the best way to give a person some constructive criticism is allow them to ask you for it. And how you do that is when there becomes a conflict, you don't jump and say, well, see, this is why you got the problem, because you're always arguing.
Yeah.
What you have to do is say, why is it that we always argue when we're together? Then, of course, they can start talking about you, and you will hear what they feel and say, and that allows you to understand how they communicate and what touches them and how what you might have done, because people love to talk about you. And then that you thank them.
Spell my name right.
Thank them and say, like you say, you always jump into conclusion, Clotie, and I say, well, thank you, and I'm glad that you see that. Because sometimes that's the way I feel about you too.
Wow, I love it.
And see, we've just shared, and they said, well, do you think so? Well, now we can talk about this commonality. It's not like, and your feet stink, or something.
Yeah.
But no, but if they do say something that is real, accept it. So it's very difficult to criticize people.
Do you think it also has to go with care? Before you receive the critique from anyone, you got to value their opinion first. You know what I mean? So many people, there's so many trolls on social media, and you're trying to do something positive. And I remember we did our second annual Total Package Awards. It made the cover of the Houston Chronicle Society pages, and there was like 50 trolls just on there. What's this? This is stupid. And, just commenting about people and everybody in the thing. And it was like, we're actually celebrating love here, but there are miserable people. So before you internalize what people think of you, check the source first, right? Because if it's not somebody you respect or want to be like, okay. So continuing on in this tough love, these are tough love tips for career success. I just want to see your thoughts on this too, Chloe. Number one tip is, here are 6 career tips that may be difficult, yet you need to hear. Your core principle. Most of us operate from one of 2 core principles: do the least I can to get away with, or do the most I can. And choosing the latter is the key to being successful. What do you think?
I definitely think doing the most you can that you like doing. That's it. That whole saying, if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And it'll be part of your purpose. So Find something that you really like, and find something that you would do it even if someone wasn't paying you to do it.
Oh, Lord.
You know, you'd be talking, Amber. Even see, and that's why, yeah.
It's so true, though. I mean, because I think if you find your true passion, it's amazing how the rest of your life just kind of falls into place. But when you don't live for your passion and you're literally punching that clock and you're doing something you're miserable at, the rest of your life suffers right along with it. Where do you get the joy from, you know? And I don't think you want to be careful, especially when you're single, trying to get your identity from your career. So many women especially will, and because we're proud, we've overcome a lot as women to get in the man's world, right? We're still not getting paid the same. But we've overcome a lot of times to get to that position. And so we think that like, we're going to lead with that. We're going to lead with that success. I'm this, this, and this. And the guy, if he's not as successful, is going to go, you don't need me. And does that go against a man's basic blueprint to be needed, Chloe?
Well, I think we all have a need to be needed, but to have these traditional ways that we look at what a man's purpose is and a woman's purpose is, it's kind of difficult nowadays.
Yeah.
Because there's some fathers that are at home taking care of the kids, and like I said, this pandemic has really shown us that it is about family or a couple working together.
Yes.
On what's your strong points and what's my strong points.
Yeah.
And not saying gender, you know, well, you're
Sure.
supposed to go wash the dishes and I'm going to do the lawn. But if I can cut the lawn better than you and you're a lot cleaner than I am, let's do this. Let's work together. So I think men right now are not as stuck on traditional roles as we had about 15, 20 years ago. That was a real issue. Now I think, you know, a man's role, he needs to understand about his spiritual role rather than looking around at this other role. Spiritually, what his role is, you talk about the energies and everything, that's what that's about, that masculineness. But about who's going to wash the dishes or who's going to bring home the money?
And I think people should talk about that, because that's one of the things where they were saying the divorce rate has increased. Ironically, one of the things people are fighting about is household chores.
Well, I know I have a friend who recently had a big blow up in their marriage about a year ago. And before their blow up in their marriage, she did all the household things. She took care of the children. I mean, like 1950s, right? He did the money, she did the house and the family, and they found themselves separating because they each had two different worlds. Their worlds did not combine. And so they had this big crazy issue that happened in their marriage that, I mean, is a blessing that they got through because it was huge. And now their whole world is combined. He helps with this. She, you know, helps him with his business stuff that he's doing. You know, they both take the girls and go places. And really, it's a combination.
Yeah.
You can't be successful and not combine. A marriage is a combination.
And we have to talk about women today. We're working. We're making money. We're, you know, bring home the bacon. We fry it in the pan and we can do the dishes too, but everybody is. So it's just, I think people are a little confused in gender roles today. And I think it's that now that we're in the workplace and we're doing our thing, it's like, okay, well, hey, it's easy. Get a maid. I mean, y'all got double income. You're good. Okay.
But you know, it doesn't, a lot of people will start quoting the Bible and they'll start quoting whatever other religious scriptures that they want to. However, it's about, there's no specifics in that. It doesn't say the woman needs to go out and do this. It may say woman's work, but I always felt that a woman's work is that men can be the light, but we're the light bulb in the sense.
Yeah.
We turn it all on.
That's right.
So it needs to be that combination. So when it's a woman's work, it's our inspiration to our man.
That's right.
And vice versa.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just have the conversation. You know, a lot of times that's the problem with today's culture. We're less in love, like so much alike, and people are jumping in bed and asking questions later. They don't take time to build a friendship and find out, how do you feel about traditional roles? How do you feel about rearing kids? What religion are you, by the way? Like, what is your last name again? I mean, people don't take time to get to know each other before they just start this relationship. And it's like, I don't really like him 6 months later. Did you know him? You know what I mean? How well did you do it? One of the next tips here, if you want to be a little bit more successful, tough love tips for your career. The second one is time effectiveness. The most productive employees also have a little inner voice on their shoulder, always whispering, is this the most effective way to do this? No, because even about 3 months ago, when we're launching Meridate, we're getting ready for everything to go. We've been having our meetings, and then I met with someone, and she goes, I feel God is telling me to tell you that there might be a better way to do it. And I was just like, well, first, I don't know you, so I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. And when anybody comes up, I don't know you, and you're telling me God say, I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm just going to, I'll listen. But it was that seed that was planted, and it was like, well, is there a better way to do this? Because you can get so just hell bent on this way, mm-hmm. and you think, I invented this, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to do it, and I know I'm creating this out of thin air. But you don't stop and go, hey, you know what? Is there a better way? Or ask people around you, do you think there's a better way to do this? Because I think it can save you a lot of heartache in the end, right? Right. That little inner voice. Is there a better way to do this? And Rosalind's like, yes, and that's why we recasted the whole show. Okay, so that was the second one. Crave feedback. You guys, and we're not talking about this president, but we're saying any president has advisors. Any president has advisors. Even the most successful people on the planet have advisors. They have boards. They have directors. They have people that give them that feedback. Sometimes it's your best friend, but I think it's good to crave feedback. What do you think, Claude? Just think you know it all? I mean, that's crazy.
No, we don't need a whole bunch of yes people in our lives. Mm-hmm. It's nice to hear yes, but yes usually means you continue to go down that straight pathway, and sometimes those crooked ones are pretty interesting too. So we do need a lot of feedback in the sense of hearing what's going on. Yeah. So you finally have to filter it yourself, like you say, and take it with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. The second thing they give you for advice is to act. That procrastination is that death. When you don't understand something important, they say there's no wrong question. So many times people are so scared that they're going to look stupid. They're worried about their ego and the wrong thing. And all you have to do is just act. Just go ask. Just go find out. If you don't know the answer, go find out about the answer. The next thing is ethics really need to be priority number one. Ethics. Not all money is good money. Let me say that right now. And just like you need to be equally yoked in a personal relationship, you need to be equally yoked in your friendship and especially business. There are so many freaking snakes and shady people out here. It is mind blowing. And I think we get hurt because it comes from people we never would have thought. They say betrayal can't happen by people you don't know. It's people that you know that you never would have thought. Did you see any of that in the show where you felt like ethics were not the priority number one?
I've seen that in some of the girls as far as their storyline and people that they were working with, the connections that they had, and then too, personally myself, in our business, we had an interesting year last year, and partnering with people and them not having those good ethics, and standards and stuff like that. So yeah, it was real. We had to experience that, and it's just sad, but it's like you say, okay, you go through that and you move on, because there are things that you can't keep repeating.
We found out one thing is if you ignore it, then what you've done is gone ahead and told the person, oh, I'll accept that behavior. Mm-hmm. So we had to find a way to let people know what our behavior, what our expectations are from ourselves and from someone else in business. This is what I do. So this is how I am, and this is how I do business, and that's it. Not allow a lot of gray area, because you can get into a lot of trouble when people say, well, I thought you meant.
Oh, wow. Sue.
Well, one of the most important things is you can always keep saying yes to things and keep saying yes to things, and all of a sudden you find yourself down a rabbit hole that you didn't know how you got there because you kept saying yes to things.
Yeah, it's at the beginning of this program when we talked about the pleaser. See, there's the pleaser personality, and it doesn't work to be in a real ethical situation by constantly trying to please people.
A really prime example of it, and if you haven't watched it, I recommend it, is the Jeffrey Epstein documentary on Netflix.
Oh, I just don't know if I can bring myself.
Watch it.
I've been trying.
Watch it. I'm making my daughter watch it. She's 11, and I feel like that right there,
smart.
it's a prime example of exactly what you just said. It's the girls talk about how they went in thinking this, and all of a sudden it changed to this. And then all of a sudden he went, that's fine. Well, what about this? And they found themselves pimping girls out. And they were getting money for it, and to them it was fine at the time. But you don't realize saying yes, 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 you are suddenly doing something that you never thought you'd do.
Right.
That's crazy. I was just thinking back about a time that my daughter, she's done modeling for a long time, and somebody hit her up on, I don't know if it was social media or where, but they hit her up and they were going to fly her to Chicago, and but she didn't need her phone, and she didn't need money. She didn't need anything.
That's how you die.
I was like, okay. Well, let's just say she had people at the airport waiting to get her, and it was me. Okay. Because she wasn't getting on that plane. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'll go sit in jail, but you ain't getting human traffic. That's not going to happen. And I think it is important to know what's going on. That's another whole subject, but it's so important with human trafficking being such a huge problem. It's disgusting, but look how much, I mean, this has been some yucky stuff. I mean, this last couple of years has been really hard on humanity, with the pedophile ring being exposed, and Hollyweird, and now the pandemic, and now the race issues are boiling to a point. It's got to be talked about. But it's been super brutal. It's like, wow, it's just boom, 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 boom. But I think it's all going to, I can feel the positive shift that's going to come from that.
Because have we been the human beings we know we can be? You know, we have not been being that. We've allowed other people to make decisions for us that, oh, well, they're doing that. And as long as I don't see that, and, well, he can pay for that, or they look like that. But now we have to go head on and say, this is about what I stand for, and this is about how this defines me. So all these things that are happening in the world define us as human beings, and I don't like some of this stuff. So that's why I said, so I love it when somebody talks about random acts of kindness. That to me is the type of human being I want to be.
Amen. That's so true. Because really what really kicked all that off, when you think back, was the Me Too movement. That's when it really, I mean, that is, I just want to thank all the women that had the courage to come out and tell your story, because our generations and our daughters and our granddaughters and our family members have a chance. Because, man, the stuff we go through is crazy. You know, Dylan, we're just trying to fight for equal pay. We just want education. We just want to be fair. But it is it's been so hard for women out here.
Yeah, women were taught for a moment that that's a man's nature. If he hits on you or whatever, you know, that's just him. You make your decisions and you go forth. But we don't make a big deal. Yes, we do. Because you don't go in, well, unless he's gay, he's not going to go and hit on another guy like that, or say that I have to do this in order for me to get a job to take care of my family. In order for me to feed my family, I have to have these kinds of activities with you. So, yeah.
Well, the last thing in this tip, we're going to talk about before we take our quick break, then we're going to have some fun when we come back, is basically control your anger, just like we talked about. If you're that person at the office, you're not going to have very many friends. If you're just that person that just repels people and just has that negative energy is very, you can absorb it, especially when you're empath like that. You just absorb it. You don't want to be that person that's a Debbie Downer and nobody wants to hang out with, and you're just always angry. That's sad. You only live one time and you're just always angry. Get some help. Go see Chloe. She can help you out, because, I mean, get in therapy. That's what we're real. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Chloe, you've had people resistant to come into therapy.
Between the ages of 0.
They come into therapy, they come in because they want to tell me about the people in their lives that are giving them problems. I said, okay, well, they need to come in here too, you know. But usually it's very difficult. But I want to say this. When you do make that decision, it is a fantastic and sacred relationship, because you're able then to work on some of the things that you need and your spirit needs and your soul needs.
I bet you can tell when people walk in like, oh, you're the problem. I already know it. You don't even need to bring them today. I know what you... All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We are going to come back and talk about a few more fun things that the lady, I'm going to get your opinions on these things. So I ask everybody these questions because I love to hear the answers. They're so different. All right, guys. So you guys are listening to the Edge Radio at 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. It's the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. Call us at 281-587-1540. We'll be back in 2 minutes. See you after this.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world.
I want to introduce
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only gentleman? Live from Houston, Texas. It's the go-to girl, the professional comedian, TV producer, and founder of MarriedDate.com. It's millionaire matchmaker, Amber.
Hey guys, welcome back into the all-new Matchmaker Hotline here on Edge Radio, 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. It's your girl, Matchmaker Amber Neal. We are in studio today with Tiffany and Chloe and Rob. Yay! We've been having fun today.
Yes.
All we need is a steak and we can be talking, like, chop it up. That sounds like our, some of that chicken and cheese from TGI Fridays is my favorite. Are they open? Did they go out of business?
No.
They're still open? What? Okay. I'm on my way. All right. So let me ask you guys. So we're going to end it on a lighter note. These are just some really fun questions, but hopefully you guys have taken some valuable tips on tough love, because sometimes your own BS is keeping you down, single, unemployed, Get some pictures from Tiffany too, okay? Because I'm telling you, the first impression is so important. And plus, with people in a culture where people watch video and they don't like to read, if you have an outstanding picture like that, it can totally set you apart. So I'm all about that. I mean, image is, you get that first impression. Okay. So, can you still be friends with the opposite sex if you are in a relationship?
Yes.
Yes.
Completely. As long as boundaries are kept and it's understood.
Okay.
It can happen. Unfortunately, a lot of times people, just because of, here we go with these roles that we have in society, they kind of test the waters, and you just have to, like you say, have very good boundaries. Because one young lady told me one time, she says, he's my friend, but he never hit on me. And and he said to her, well, I thought it would be disrespectful. Yeah, it would have been, but you could have still hit on me.
It's like we want them to want us, but we don't want them, but we don't want them to want us, but we do. Right. Yeah, it's called being a girl.
So you have to work through all that.
What do you think, Roz?
Most definitely you can. I mean, like you say, of course, boundaries. There just has to be that maturity there.
Yeah.
And that if it's a real relationship, then you do respect that.
Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So without trust, we have nothing.
Right.
Yep.
One guy told me one time he can't be friends with women that are his type.
That's his boundary, though. That's his boundary.
I actually like that. Yes. I actually like that. Okay, cool.
If I find you with somebody your type, you better
be your sister. Yeah, that better be your sister.
Right.
I better be blood related. That's all I'm saying. And we ain't living in Arkansas. Okay, so number 2, are conversations with exes okay if you are in a relationship? To me, there's a thin line. Like, it depends on what it's about. Like, I feel like you should never talk to your ex about your current.
Well,
what do you guys say?
I feel like, first of all, it depends on the relationship you have with your ex.
Yeah.
That's a loaded question. Because, like, it can be a yes and it can be a no.
Yeah.
That's a real loaded one.
How you qualify?
Yeah.
And I think it also depends on when. If you're in how you are emotionally. If you're stable emotionally and everything is going good for you and everything, there might not be a problem. But I think it's dangerous if things aren't going well and you start thinking about what woulda, shoulda, coulda happened. It can get you in a lot of problems because you know why you got out of there. And to go back there when you're at your bottom, that's not going to help you. So make sure that you are in a good place and that you're not looking for something when you have these conversations with your ex.
And let me just add, don't ever go back to any situation you had to pray your way out of.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay.
My thing is, if you're my ex and I'm talking to you, there's something I have to care. Because if not, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that too has its limits.
So is that dangerous?
No, it's not dangerous. If I'm talking to you and I care, so.
Well, I do want to say though, if you have children together, that may change some of the dynamic because you may not be BFFs, but there may be many conversations that have to be had, and you all need to be adult enough to have them. And that's
a lot of parents nowadays communicate through the kids. The kids have cell phones. I mean, they literally pass messages through the kids, but that's another whole show. Okay. Yeah. So the general consensus is yes, if there's boundaries and it's talked about. And I think, but I agree with you. I think if it's fresh, like this is like your very last ex and this is like your new, that's kind of, you're playing with fire. I mean, it could go either way. Yes.
You're trying to play with fire at that point.
And I really think too, what do you think? If I am willing to play with fire, then I'm probably not into this new guy as much as I really think.
Or you're trying to hurt the old one.
Oh, make them jealous. Yes. That always backfires.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I think we all on this panel realize something about you don't ever prosper when you're trying to hurt someone else's situation. There's no prosper in it. You got to feel.
It's so true. So many things flashed through my mind of sad people that just literally I've told one of my exes that I'm friends with, and I've told him, like, your career is not further along because of your karma and how you treat women. And it's straight up. It is. It's just, he should be so much further along in his career, but he literally dogs out women. And I was that person to say, look, it's cool now that I can see you the way you are. And once I've healed and I've grown, and I'm trying to reach back and tell him, you need to heal. You're still dealing with stuff from your childhood. That's why you're acting this way. But regardless of why, it's affecting your success.
And they don't see it. I think
they won't. They say that he is an eternal victim to this day. It's like, oh, well, everything is somebody else's fault. And I'm like, dude, you are the one playing yourself. So karma is very real, and it will come back and get you. Okay, so here's the next question. Should you give your significant other access to all your social media accounts and passwords to your phone?
I mean, John has access to everything I have, and I have access to his, but we don't use it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not hiding anything from him. I mean, I guess it depends on your relationship and how long you've been in the relationship and how dedicated you are to the relationship. But, I mean, if you have nothing to hide.
Yeah. If you're in a committed relationship, you two have made that commitment. Then, of course, because there should be no secrets. And there shouldn't be anything that I'm hiding on social media, which would mean that I'm not much of an adult anyway, because you can still cheat without being on social media. It's no need of leaving.
Work is the number one
leaving
place.
a path right to it. However, this would be kind of, in a way, showing, hey, you have access to my information, I have access to yours, and we're trying to build trust, because I shouldn't need to do anything that would upset you. But if you're not in a committed relationship, keep your business to yourself until you're committed.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. I feel like they should have access to it. There should be nothing to hide. I know for myself, I'm a very open person, so if I'm in a relationship with someone, which I am, they know, okay, well, I do have male friends, and they're up on the conversation. So if you do see something, a message from them, you understand where it's at, but, so there's nothing to hide.
Keep them included in the combo.
Right. And if you're needing to hide something, then you don't need to be in that relationship.
I just don't understand. I mean, this sounds so ignorant, but I just really don't understand. Why people is it the thrill of cheating? Like, what is it? What is that's another whole show.
That's because you're not a cheater, so.
Is that what it is? I just don't understand. I don't get it.
But some people just can't commit. But there's whole relationships built around that now. So it's a whole different show.
Okay, so next question is, what time do you consider as being disrespectful to come back home if you're in a relationship?
Wait, say that?
Never.
Ooh, let me say something on that, because I had a wake up call with that one of my relationships, because I was always just free, right? Just me to do that. And I've been in a relationship, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to this Halloween party, I'll be back. I mean, I turned out the party, okay? So, and then it was coming from a long way. I didn't know I was going to be home at 3 in the morning. And so, that was the top for him. But to me, it was like, okay, I'm home safe, and I came home, however, I think, a decent hour just needs to be understood between the partner.
Yeah.
It depends on where the relationship is. I always feel that if you care about someone, you should be able to at least be in that safety zone. Like, if I'm going to stay out late and I know that there is someone that I usually call at 12 o'clock every night to say goodnight, I might want to say, look, I'm going to a party and I'll talk to you tomorrow. So that they won't be wondering, whatever. But I feel that it depends upon the couple and their understanding. One of you might have to do a lot of business stuff. You may have to go out and
network and
different things. So it's not about time. I think it's about letting the other person know where you are. It's about consideration. And you can, you can come in at 6 o'clock in the morning if you and the girls are sitting up playing bridge all night. It's not time. People don't cheat within a certain time. It's not like after 2 a.m. all the cheating begins. No, that's not necessarily so. It's before before 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
It really is the number one way people cheat through work. It's crazy. Their work husband. My work husband. Yeah, he takes me where I want to go. All right. So the next question is, how much of your relationship issues or business do you think is okay to share with family members or social media?
None.
Zero, zilch, none, done. That's crazy because you go tell them all that stuff and then you make up.
Yeah.
And everybody's dogging you, but it kills me how many people play out their drama on social media. Mm-hmm. It's like those people just love drama. It's just a personality type. It's another. Those are the people we should have added to that other list that we had.
That's that. I knew what you're like in high school list.
Seriously, it's drama. It's like at some point we grow up, but I think it's healthy to seek help professionally.
I have couples come in sometimes and they've had problems with social media. And I said, you know that's not real, don't you?
Right.
I said, this is just something that we're throwing up there and putting together. And half the stuff you can't prove. And this is some people's fantasy. I said, so you're participating in fantasy most of the time. And they looked at each other and they said, oh, well. I said, so don't live in fantasy. You have each other. Live with each other. And they start laughing because, you know, social media is a great invention. Cool. And it's nice to keep in touch with your family members and see who had the baby and who has a birthday. And it should just stop right there. It should not go any layer deeper than that. It should be just like a Hallmark greeting card. Yeah. You know, glad you had the baby. Happy you had your birthday. And let's move and give you the little cute little saying and, you know, and be through with it. That's what social media is for.
It's crazy because so many divorces are because of social media, and I even get hit on LinkedIn. Like,
oh my gosh, yes.
People.
I posted a picture that showed my shoulder, and I had a running joke with a friend of mine. I was like, I showed the shoulder. It was the shoulder. So therefore, all men must come tell me about my shoulder.
It's funny. It's really funny the things people comment on. It cracks me up. Okay, so got time for maybe one or two more questions. Do you think a couple's finances should be together once you're in that commitment stage? Let's say you're not married. Is there like a time frame, like engaged, married?
Well, I'm going with what I was taught. Yeah. And it was that when two people get together and they have a committed relationship. Now, I was taught that if you're not committed, don't commingle your funds because that can cause a lot of problems. But if you're in a committed relationship, you all make decisions about what's household, what's this, what's that, and then giving some individuality of each person having a little extra to spend and maybe something to save for a vacation. Yeah. Everybody still has their own dollar or something so that you're not one person's going to the other one saying, can I have a nickel, please?
Yeah, that's a bad emotional.
Yeah, it takes up time and it's emotional.
I think where that gets interesting is when you're a stay-at-home mom and you're contributing physically and not financially, and the men tend to look at that down versus respect it. And I think that's where that gets a fascinating question, because it becomes, one thing I've always had a problem with is, can I buy this? Can I do this? Can I go there? A relationship, a true relationship, you shouldn't be asking, can I? Hey, do you have any issues? I'm going to go over here and do this. And so that's where that becomes an interesting question.
The answer's simple, though. If you leave, you get half. So why can't you have it while you're in it? I mean, that's just a control 100%. Freak. Yeah. I mean, your job, and I really get angry with women that talk down or talk bad about women that are homemakers. That is the most honorable job you could ever have in your life. And some people, we add a career to it. We're still homemakers. We're still mothers. We're still going out there. But now we're just adding our career to it. Your job as a homemaker is no less important than the CEO of a company. Trust and believe that. And if you're with a man that makes you feel like it isn't, you're with the wrong man.
Right. Yes. I was a stay-at-home mother for about 3 or 4 years. And one day my husband asked me, Clotie, what do you do with my money? And, wow. And I kind of thought about it and I said, he's right. Because if he's thinking that way, it is his money. Yeah. So the next day, I went and got a job. And I came home and I said, we need a babysitter because, you asked me what I did with your money, and so I understand that I need to go get some money.
Exactly. I had a guy I was dating. We were just dating, and he basically wanted to pay all the bills and everything, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then I came over to his house one day, and I turned the air conditioner down, and he's like, when you pay that, you can touch it. I was like, okay, this is.
That's a goodbye.
Let me give you back your bouquet of red flags. Okay, let's move on. All right, guys, the show is coming to an end. Coming up next, we are going to have Al Roundtree. He's coming on with the new Cutting Edge radio show at 2:00. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and find out how people can support you guys.
I want to introduce to you a gentleman that I've come to know and really appreciate, Dr. Raul Rodriguez from Rodriguez Rejuvenation. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Well, I started my career as in cosmetic surgery and aesthetic medicine over 20 years ago, and I've always been an innovator in everything that I've done. And I was fortunate enough to be featured on ABC News 2020 back in 2003 with Barbara Walters doing the introduction. Could this be the answer to your dreams?
Walters and Hugh Downs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, he wanted to give me a break.
I want to introduce.
And you can also call 832-423-2708 if you want to make an appointment.
Go see Chloe, man. She's so awesome. Thank you, Chloe.
And if y'all want to get in touch with me, Tiffany, y'all can go to my website, which is www.lanzamanage.com, or I'm on Facebook as Lanza Manage or Goddess by Lanza Manage. So
spell that out just for people that
LAN is in Nancy, Z is in Zebra, A, and then manage like you manage.
Just want to make sure, because make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you.
Yes.
Because you're awesome, and you're going to be doing our branding photos.
I'm excited.
Soon too, so we're really excited about that. All right, guys, so that's been our show today. We will be back again tomorrow at noon, and tomorrow is Women's Wednesday, so we're super excited. Amber and Nicole are going to come on, and we're going to have some really special guests too. So y'all stay tuned for that tomorrow. And then if you are rewatching the show, you can go back on Facebook, Edge Radio Network. You can watch it there at any given time. Share, start a watch party. We really appreciate that. And thanks to our sponsor, Meridate, we're going to be giving our guests today some free travel certificates. So yay for that. For more information about Meridate, it's Houston's first private social club for couples only, and we are here to cure the divorce rate. Go to meridate.com, and if you want more information about me or being a guest on the show, go to amberneal.com, and that's been our show. So you guys are listening to Edge Radio at 101.7 FM, 1540 AM. It's the all-new Matchmaker Hotline. We'll be right back tomorrow at noon. See you then.
To you, a gentleman that I've come to know and really appreciate, Dr. Raul Rodriguez from Rodriguez Rejuvenation. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Well, I started my career as in cosmetic surgery and aesthetic medicine over 20 years ago, and I've always been an innovator in everything that I've done. And I was fortunate enough to be featured on ABC News 2020. Back in 2003 with Barbara Walters doing the introduction. Could this be the answer to your
Barbara
dreams?
Walters and Hugh Downs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, he wanted up on the Give Me a Break segment with John Salza, but fortunately, we were the featured segment on 2020. So I've always been an innovator in everything that I've done on the area of aesthetics and rejuvenation as well. I realized many years ago that it took more than just a scalpel to make somebody look younger and feel younger. Mm-hmm. And I incorporated into my practice bioidentical hormone replacement, optimal nutrition, other things. I mean, what's the use in looking younger if you don't feel good?
Yes.
So a lot of what I do and integrate in my practice is not just designed to help you look younger, help you look more fresh, for women as well as men, but also to make you feel younger and ultimately even function younger, as we'll get into a little bit more with our segment.
With regard to men and erectile dysfunction, this has become very pervasive, and to my surprise, I'm hearing men in their 30s are having issues right now. Is that right?
Yes, it's true. And in my practice, I've had a 50-something-year-old father that brought his 26-year-old son in because he had different issues.
Wow.
With the issue of erectile dysfunction, and I would like to rephrase that and let's rename it as erectile functioning. The circulation gets poorer as we get older, everywhere in our body. Our circulation gets bad in our legs, circulation gets bad in our heart, and eventually you die of a heart attack.
Right.
Well, the same thing happens with erectile function in men. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not a psychological issue. It's an issue that simply has to do with the fact the circulation there is not as good as it was when you were 25 years old.
Yes, yes.
But now we have technology to reverse some of those changes, some of that deterioration of circulation to help restore more normal blood flow and circulation to the area,
yes,
even though it's 25 years down the road from when you used to be 25. The procedures that I'm talking about is a procedure that actually helps stimulate the formation of new blood vessels in the area, so it restores a more normal blood flow, more normal circulation, a more normal, healthier, younger function.
You have a procedure that you've revolutionized, and now in the industry there is an option. Tell us about what that process is and how it works.
That's called the Rod-Rock procedure. Rod for Rodriguez and Rock, ROC, for restoration of circulation.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Restoration of circulation.
Restoration
the
of circulation.
Rod-Rock treatment.
The Rod-Rock treatment. Now, essentially what I've done is combine different modalities that have been around for a long time, but combine them to get synergy in stimulating new blood flow, new blood vessel formation in the penis.
Yes.
And particularly in the part of the male organ that dilates with blood, called the corpora cavernosa. And that particular treatment involves using some instrumentation with machines to deliver energy to the area, but also I combine that with stem cells. There's a lot of stuff in the news about stem cells and the capacity of stem cells to rejuvenate tissues, to heal things. And I take those different modalities and combine them in a 2-week protocol to actually get significant improvement in over 95% of the people that have the treatment.
Wow, wow. And you're saying it's a process that's only about 2 weeks in length?
It's about 2 weeks. Right.
Wow.
It's 2 weeks. You come into the office, 3 times a week. It's 2 to 3 weeks. So I can adjust it to the patient's schedule. 2 to 3 times a week for 2 consecutive weeks, okay? And then after that, you may not have to have another session until a year, maybe 2 years down the road.
So Dr. Rodriguez, we are just about out of time. Can you tell folks how they can connect to you?
RodriguezRejuvenation.com. RodriguezRejuvenation.com. And there on the website, you'll find lots of useful information. And then, of course, come in for a consultation as soon as you can, because everybody is different. There's no cookie cutter approach, and we customize a treatment protocol and treatment plans for what your particular problems are, your personality to some extent, your budget. So everything is customized.
Outstanding, outstanding. So ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Dr. Raul Rodriguez of Rodriguez Rejuvenation.
I will never be the same without you. Without you, without you, without you,
So let's talk a little bit about intuitive communication. You know, one of the things that I've always found very fascinating is how we instinctively have a connection to one another. And it's one of those things that no one can really explain. They just seem to So let's talk a little bit about intuitive communication. You know, one of the things that I've always found very fascinating is how we instinctively have a connection to one another. And it's one of those things that no one can really explain. They just seem to feel it. I've always believed that in the realm of creativity, we're connected to a higher source. Some people call it the morphic field. Some people call it the cause of all causes, or the knowing, or God, or any number of different things. And whatever your belief systems are, you can appreciate that we all have a higher intelligence. And that's why when I look at what is happening in the world right now with vitriolic speech and with people who are promoting hate and divisiveness, it's really a sad state of affairs. I mean, if you think about the beauty and the diversity that we have on this planet, you think about all the amazing people that can contribute amazing things. There's not one person that has not experienced some foreign food, some ethnic flavor that you absolutely love to this day. Well, what if that person didn't exist? What if everybody just ate this one thing?